by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to another Shabbat Tanakh review, another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai. I'm one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH CHOKMAH, located at 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Thanking you once again for joining us and tuning in to us on this Shabbat day. We like to give glory to the creator of heaven and earth, Yehudah, the God of the universe, the only God, the one that we bow down to, the one that we prostrate ourselves before, the one that we give all glory to. Yehudah is his name. Also giving due respect to the leadership of our congregation, even Chief Prince Yehudah Ben Yissaskar, praying that the Creator be with him, be with his family, his household, that the Creator will protect them, keep them, and guide them through all endeavors. The Most High God be with all of our elders, with our mothers, and that the Most High God will protect us all. I pray that the Creator continue to bless Kobe Yisrael scattered in the four corners of the earth, and I pray that the Most High God be with all those who continue to call upon his name in truth and in righteousness. Thanking God for my life and the life of my family. And I thank the Most High God for the life of all of you who are tuning in on this Shabbat day. And we pray that the Creator will enlighten you, will give you knowledge, wisdom, and above all understanding. And we pray that the Creator will continue to bless you with all of your endeavors. Hallelujah. Giving glory to the Creator once again, and thanking the Creator for life, food, clothing, and shelter. It's a blessing. I just want to say this, you know, it's a blessing when we get lessons like this from elders and people that have been around for decades, and we could gain understanding from certain things that we might not have understanding of, and bring it from a different perspective. You know, the longer you live on earth is the more experience that you have. And even more than that is when you're walking in a path of righteousness, you gather more righteous experiences. I mean, along the way, you have your stumbling blocks and the things that life has to offer. But when you are a person, man or woman, who walk within a righteous path and are doing things that, you know, you try to strive for righteousness, not saying that your whole life was perfect, but if you're striving for righteousness and for goodness, then you have a wealth of experience to share with people. And this is essentially what this teacher, this brother, this elder in our community, one of my mentors, one of my teachers for sure, Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah, has to offer. It's a wealth of knowledge and things to show us, and we must be appreciative of it, and you know, just understand that, you know, men and women like these are put within the midst of us in order to help to guide us in our paths through life. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass it on to the teacher of the lesson, even my mentor and one of my teachers, Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Doing well, Baruch Hashem. And thanks for that big build-up. You know, hopefully I live up to half of it or a fraction of it, something like that. But first of all, I give praises to the Premature Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. And due respect to the on the platform, on D.C.B channel platform, the spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yehudah Ben Yissaskar, to the host Chief Uzziel, to the princes, chiefs, the rabbinate, Kohanim, Maureen, brothers and sisters, visitors to the channel, greet you in the tongue of my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem and an early Shabbat Shalom. And I'll continue to say, Adonai Septai Titakufi Agi Ti Lateka Olo down my lips, and my mouth shall show forth that praise. We'll be going now. I'm pretty much in my normal sync. I'm directly behind with Sidra, that the majority of the people from the Israelite community be doing. So we pretty much in sync now. So it's like a review and highlighting certain points on some things that you already know, and hopefully I might could stimulate a thought in different areas of things that you might be inclined to consider. I'll be done with the book. We're going to a new book now. When I say a new book, a new episode in the first 5 books. This is the 5th book in order of what we call the CHOKMAH. Most people in a generic sense say the Torah. The Torah just means instructions. You could get instructions almost anywhere. But the law, statutes, and judgments that we're supposed to adhere to the most, that's in the first 5 books. That is, we into the 5th book, which is called Deuteronomy, which is the Greek law, which means like repetition or a repetition, in itself, and or second, and is another term it's referred to as Mishneh Torah, but we call it in the Hebrew Devarim because there's a lot of words being spoken. Devarim is spoken by this man Moses, and those that heard it over the week know that from a man that claimed he couldn't speak, there's a lot of words going on. So, and I think I touched on that in the past several times. What was he? What area that he couldn't speak in? That and I said that mostly it have been a problem. Maybe speaking the Egyptian tongue, because speaking to the Creator, he had no problem. Speaking and relaying the people message, that was no problem too, because the Creator, he's gonna speak only the Creator's words. So here, when we get before the book of Deuteronomy, Genesis, he wasn't around, so he got that message in the right story. The right story, because I'm sure tradition was passed down to him, but he got the right story from the Creator himself. And so from Genesis, and then we get into Exodus, when Moses come about, we get the right story. Not only he writing those, he's credited for writing those books. From you read where and thus spoke the Lord. When you get into Leviticus, and the Lord spoken to Moses saying, you get into the all Numbers, same thing. But when you get into the book of Deuteronomy, you don't find thus the Lord spoken to Moses saying, speak unto the children of Israel. The closer you might find something similar to that is when he's recapping history, past events. So now, so this is what, and that's one area you could look at and view this. And then there's another area you could view. If you think he just had a problem as an orator, because he did say he was slow of tongue. So was he slow? We definitely know Aaron spoke mostly to the Egyptians in a sense, as his mouthpiece. But if he's slow of tongue, was he slow in tongue or saying things to us that we didn't understand? Was he slow in tongue when he spoke to the Creator? Was he slow in tongue when he said, I wasn't a man of words. I'm slow of tongue, heavy tongue, with the word kabed, which is similar to in the same short as the word, kavod, which is honor, glorious. But kabed, it means heavy, and it also means lead. So now, which one is it? What can we extrapolate from that shortish, from that root? So we, all those things, people comment over the years. And one of the things you look at, that he only used that term after he was completely commissioned to go down there. After you heard all the nuances about his job, then he started to use that term at the end. Why didn't he use the term ahead of time? So he was able to defend us. And if he was such a bad speaker, we would say, Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear. but let not God speak with us lest we die. So we clearly understood Moses, when he spoke to us, at any given time. But now he developed as a greater orator over a period of time, 40 years dealing with the people. So now we enter the 40th year of the people departure from Egypt. And one of the issues, another thing too, I spoke in one of Sidros that Devarim could also be referred to as Devarim, which is bees. Bees make honey, they produce honey rather, they produce honey, but also they have a stinger, and a stinger could be deadly to some people, because some people can die just from a bee sting. So the words that he's bringing out here, those Moses words, and as a teacher, he's expounding just similar to what I'm doing. So I'm nowhere in his level, but similar to what I'm doing. That's what he's doing with the stuff that he learned from God. And it's important to realize that he's taking it to another level from the things that he already learned from God. I'm going to bring out a couple of points here in the beginning before I go into the Haftarah, which is the book of Isaiah, which, when I get ready to go over there, that'll be the Haftarah, and this be the third Haftarah of admonishment. Now, in the book of Deuteronomy, this particular Sidra is always read either the week before Tisha B'Av, or like when Tisha B'Av falls on the Shabbat and it postpones the fast to like Sunday, which is today, pretty much what I'm doing today. Then they, they come on the actual day of Tisha B'Av. And for those that follow a particular rabbinic tradition, it might mean just something to consider, how important that opening things of this particular book is. Whereas when we look at the book of Deuteronomy, those that read and go for the Aliyah to read the Torah in the synagogues, they have a Torah, what they call a trope, which is a melody that they use to read Torah. And they have a different melody for reading the Haftarahs. That's not my forte. That's not areas I'm good in. I'm just sharing information in reference to that. But and so those that goes up, if they notice that most times they would have the rabbis reading, doing the pretty much the Haftarah point or the Torah portion, and reading this particular Sidra and open, but more so the Haftarah portion. What they have is this the only Haftarah that's actually, the only Sidra, I made a mistake there. The only Sidra that I know of, and like I said, any mistakes could be my own, that has the same trope as the Haftarah. Normally Sidras have their own trope, own melody, and throughout the book, except a few will have unique differences, such as when it's get to the Decalogue, which we commonly know as the Ten Commandments. When we deal with the song at the sea, when they Ashir Moshe, the song that Moses sang and the children of Israel joined in. When we deal with the last song in his book of Hazienu. So those have different melodies, whereas the majority of that particular Sidra, the end, has the regular Torah style melody, where the Haftarah has a different melody than the Torah does. So this is the only Sidra that has the melody of a Haftarah. And when we get into the Haftarah later on, the Shabbat is either before Tisha B'Av or like it falls on Tisha B'Av. It's called the Shabbat of Kazan, which is actually vision, be able to see something in the future, so a projection. So the Shabbat Kazan was actually there. Next Shabbat would be called Shabbat Nakamu, and it takes it from the first words, within the Haftarah itself. So now we have, like I said before, we have 3 weeks of admonishment. This will be the last one, and then you start 7 weeks of comfort, that goes on, and then the beginning of Rosh Chodesh of Elul, then we start reading Psalms 27. So all that's, so everything we're doing now, pretty much we're dealing with the Haftarah and stuff, going to be more according to seasonal events as well as historical events. All right, so I'd like to bring out a couple points here, and I'm trying not to be too long in it. In the beginning of the chapter, I'm just going to read this here just for a prologue. These are the words which Moses spoke unto all Israel beyond the Jordan, in the wilderness, in the Arabah, over against Suf, between Param and Tophel, and Laban, and Hazarot, and Dizahab. It is 11 days' journey from Koreb unto Kadesh Barnea by the way up Mount Seir. And it came to pass in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, that Moses spoke unto the children of Israel according to all that the Lord had given him in commandments unto them, after he had smitten Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who dwelt on Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, who dwelt in Ashtaroth, at Israel beyond the Jordan, in the land of Moab, took Moses upon him to expound this law, saying. So I'll let you know that everything we'll read in Deuteronomy is Moses explaining what God had already taught him. So now what's so important about that is when we get into the next portion I want to bring out and make a correlation in it is, but I want to share some insights into this area here. We know when he started this speech in Deuteronomy first, the first chapter. We know that. Tradition placed the finishing of the book of Deuteronomy around the 7th of Adar, the day of his death. We could pretty much calculate roughly given a day or two from the mourning period and when Joshua, his successor, had entered the land of Canaan, crossed over to Jordan. So I'm just so that's why it's important to look at these dates and months and everything like that, because now we get an idea when he decided to do this. We say, let you know, it's in the 40th year. We know Aharon died, in the 5th month on Rosh Chodesh. He started this thing of reading and expounding, speaking like I'm speaking to you, in the 11th month. And in the 12th month, he died in the early part of the 12th month. So that's how we get the calculation, give or take a day or two from tradition. So it's always important to try to see timelines, and that way when you study, you can see, well, okay, what was the conditions of the people at the time? All right. So now, that being said, I'd like to move on and say, and the Lord our God spoke unto us in Horeb, saying, ye have dwelt long enough in this mountain, turn you and take your journey and go to the hill country of the Amorites. All right, so we know we had to go there. We moved. We wasn't lost in the wilderness. We went where God wanted us to go after we was commissioned to do 40 years there because of the bad the bad words that came from the so-called spies. So I'd like to look at and bring out some points here in reference to the ninth verse of this first chapter. It said, and the Lord spoke unto you at that time, saying, I am not able to bear, and I spoke unto you at that time, saying, I am not able to bear you myself alone. The Lord your God hath multiplied you, and behold, you are this day as the stars of heaven for multitude. The Lord, the God of your fathers, make you 1,000 times so many more as you are, and bless you as he had promised you. All right, this is Moses saying, I ain't mad. I mean, y'all gave me a hard time, but I'm not mad at you, in that sense. I see God multiply you, and I want him to multiply you even greater. That's it. That's a good leader. All right. How can how can I myself bear your cumbrance and your burden and your strife? Get you from each of your tribes, wise men, And this is why I want to focus on the 13th verse. Because he said, well, y'all caused me a lot of problems now. Caused me a lot of headaches. Hence, when I said earlier from last week, why would they describe Moses' physical condition going up the mountain? You know, they died, eyes were not dim, those natural forces abated, and don't describe Aharon. Because Moses had more worryation, more vexation with the people than Aharon. So was he beat down? Was he wore out? Did he become feeble? David says in his 34th Psalm about because of the troubles he went through, how his bones had waxed weak and everything like that, and limbs got waxed old. So sometimes stress can actually physically damage you. So hence that's one of the reasons I point out and bring about why they would describe Moses' physical abilities when he's getting ready to die, as opposed to Aharon. All right. So now in the 13th verse, which is very important for us to focus on. I'm just going to hit a couple of 2 spots in here, and then going to the Haftarah, because the Haftarah is pretty long. It says, get you from each and one of your tribes, wise men and understanding and full of knowledge, and I'll make them heads over you. And you answered me and said, the thing which thou hast spoken is good for us to do. All right. So, now this was Jethro. I gave him some advice. Right. So we know Jethro gave him some advice when he's judging the people in Exodus. So he followed the advice of his father-in-law with the approval of the Creator. Not just Jethro, because Jethro said, if it's okay with your God. So with the approval of the Creator, he followed his father-in-law's advice. But now, well, I want you to not forget that, these are supposed to be judges, in a sense. So, and it said, and I charge your judges at that time, saying, hear the cause between your brethren, and judge righteously between a man and his brother, and a stranger that is with them. You shall not respect person in judgment. You shall hear the small and the great alike. You shall be not be afraid of the face of any man, for the judgment is God's. And the cause that is too hard for you, you shall bring unto me, and I will hear it. And I command you at that time all the things which ye should do. All right. But then I'm going to skip on down to the 12th verse. All right. Oh no, before before I get there, I got to bring this out. So now, when we look at the 15th verse, I said we're going to go to the 13th verse, and we're looking at the 15th verse. The 13th verse says, wise men and understanding and full of knowledge. That's important. Three characteristics. That's talking about. But it really means men that's well known in the neighborhood. I mean, these judges can't be, who are you? You judge so-and-so? Nobody know you. Where you come from? So in the Hebrew, it's not clearer. Whereas, they talk about men that's known in the community. Because sometimes people, and especially in our particular community, guys become a judge overnight, become this great authority overnight, and nobody know his pedigree, where you from, who you come up under, who you set up under, and none of that kind of stuff. But yet, all of a sudden now, they're endowed with this, great wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So the judges had to be known for the people to accept them, because if you're going to say, why am I going to go to a judge that I don't know? In this society, try to say, we're going to have you judged by the people of your peers. That's a whole nother story. But when Moses said, so I took the heads of your tribes, wise men, full of knowledge. What happened to the understanding? Why, when he was asking for men, it's supposed to be wise men of understanding, and then they talk about these people here being well known. All right. So there was and like I said, the word for knowledge, it also means, full of knowledge also means that one is well known. And when you look at it in the Hebrew, because the Hebrew word he uses, we're doing is like one that's known amongst the tribes. They had to be men that was known amongst the tribes. All right. So, and they had some knowledge, but they had a little wisdom. They had some knowledge, but they had no understanding. Why the understanding missing? If God told him to get these people, Jethro gave him this requirement. Why did he settle for just these 2 qualities? Why he didn't get the 3 qualities that Creator had wanted him to get? Remember all those 3 qualities, wisdom, understanding, not only having knowledge, but being known for their knowledge. Because you can have knowledge, but nobody know you have any knowledge, then who are you? So you had to be known and recognized that, oh yeah, that's a smart guy over there. He's a very intelligent individual. That's why they had to be known, because they had to say, well, okay, do you have a reputation for, administration or deciding, making decisions in life? Are you organized like that? So, and then what brings another question, these are things you can further discuss with your teachers, because I'm not going to be able to speak on it that much. But another thing I like to throw out there as well is that you had those kind of people that had all those qualifications when it came to building the tabernacle. So now we got to say, well, what is the meaning of understanding? Because you got, people with wisdom, and they can have wisdom. There's one level of wisdom where you could just, okay, I got what you said, and I can repeat what you said. All right. Another level of wisdom is that I understood what you said. But the greater level of wisdom is being able to extrapolate what you said and hinted on in there and bring it beyond that. A judge got to be able to deal with that. A judge got his, when you work on the tabernacles, all right, I got to figure out, he gave me instructions, told me what this size should be, what material this should be, what should I do with that, etc. So those instructions are laid out. In your head, you say, well, how am I put it together? How I got to cut this beam? How I got to cut this curtain? How I got to sew this here? So all that, you're figuring out because you had certain plans laid out for you. And so you channel in it. And you only focus on this area here. Now, this is the tabernacle. Now, building the tabernacle and building a citadel or fortress is different. But you got to understand it for how to build a tabernacle. And because the Creator gave us the instructions in the blueprint, pretty much, that Moses brought down with him, how to build. But when it comes to law and judgment, you got to judge each case individually because you got other nuances that go on. So much so that says that you should go to the judges that should be in your days because you're going to have a different variable. So Moses said, I wasn't able to find people that had that kind of skill level to deal with certain variables. So basically, it had to come to me. That is part of being a developing individual, knowing the difference between wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. See, understanding is being able to go beyond what you had learned and see the value of what you learned, and be able to step into another area with it. So this is one of the things that the judges and it's a very important question to discuss. Whilst understanding is missing for judges in this case that Moses chose. And mind you, this is 40 years ago. All right. Another thing I like to bring out when we get to the 19th, I'm just going to stay in the first chapter today of that. It said, 19th verse, about the first chapter. And we journeyed from Horeb and went through all that great and dreadful wilderness which ye saw by the way to the hill country of the Amorites, as the Lord our God commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. And I said unto you, ye are come unto the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God giveth unto us. Behold, the Lord thy God has set the land before thee. Go up, take possession, as the Lord, the God of thy fathers, has spoken unto thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. And ye came unto me, every one of you, and said, let us send men before us, that we may search the land for us, and bring us back word of the way by which we must go up, and the cities unto which we shall come. Now, 40 years ago, they was going to get ready to confront the Ammonites. 40 years. But they didn't fight them until 40 years later. But Moses going back over, that what happened 40 years ago with a new generation. Now, there's going to be a lot of questions that I'm going to leave on the table for you to, discuss. And the thing pleased me well, and I took 12 men of you, one man of every tribe, and they turned and went up into the mountains and came unto the valley of Eshcol and spied it out. All right, so right then and there in the 23rd verse, and 24th verse, and let you know that those 12 guys that came back with that bad report, that is brought up there to this generation. And it's important we know about who he's talking to, when he's talking, and what it's about he's talking about. So now, these 12 guys, that's 40 years ago that he's, sent them, give or take, a little less than 40 years. I just use a round number of 40 years because we know it was after the first year after they left out of Egypt. So the most it could be is 39 years ago, all right, or 38 respectively. And it said, and took of the fruit of the land in their hands and brought it down unto us and brought us back word and said, good is the land which the Lord our God giveth unto us. Yet ye will not go up, but rebelled against the commandments of the Lord your God, and ye murmured in your tents and said, because the Lord hated us, he hath brought us forth out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. That's 40 years ago he's saying that he did that. But you talk to a whole new generation. These guys don't know anything about, they never seen all the wonders and stuff like that there. They didn't have anything to do with that. Because all the men of 20 and upward are dead. And then we're going to come back and say that. But then it says, we got to find out what's going on with this history. All right. And so how could we say God hate us? That's why he brought us up. When he fed us in a place that he described, a land that was harsh, a land which no man passes. He fed us, but God hate us. And later on, from the story, our clothes then waxed old, and our feet did not swell. And yet, God hate us. But that's what they say, because of what they had to confront. They said, whither are we going up? Our brothers have made our heart to melt, saying, the people is greater and taller than we. The cities are great and fortified up to heaven. Moreover, we have seen the children of Anak there. Anakim there. Then I said unto you, dread not, neither be afraid of them. The Lord your God, who goeth before you, he shall fight for you, according to all that he did for you in Egypt, before your eyes and in the wilderness. Wherefore ye have seen how that the Lord thy God hath bore thee as a man doth bear his son, in all the way that ye went until ye came unto this place. And yet in this thing you do not believe the Lord your God, who went before you in the way to seek you out a place to pitch your tents and fire by night to show you by what way to go, and then in cloud by day. So now we got to look at this here portion. This is Moses talking to another generation. Now we're going to come into the 34th verse, saying, the Lord heard, and the Lord heard the voice of your words, and was wroth and swore, saying, surely there shall not one of these men, even this evil generation, see the good land, which I swore to give unto your fathers. save Caleb, the son of Yehudah. He shall see it, and to him I will give the land that he had trodden upon, and to his children, because he had wholly followed the Lord. Also, the Lord was angry with me for your sake. Thou shalt also not go in thither. Joshua the son of Nun, who standeth before thee, he shall go in thither. Encourage thou him, for he shall cause the people to inherit. All right, now, I'm only going to stop there. I'm stopping right here in this particular area here because there's a lot being said here. One, we're talking 40 years ago. What happened? When you talk to a whole new generation, about 40 years ago, what happened? All right. And then the order that's being presented here. You talk about the, the generation would not see the land except Caleb and Yehudah. Okay. And saying the Lord was angry with me for your sake. For your sake, how? When the Lord God was angry with me because of the people was upset 40 years ago. What is Moses talking about right now? Because if it happened 40 years ago, the Creator pretty much wasn't angry with Moses, except when he was trying to get the commission, and God got angry with him, when he was refused to go. But I'm saying, but in the instance, in this particular case, God, the Creator, wasn't angry with Moses because of what the spies brought back and brought an evil report. And then you bringing about Caleb, all right. And when you bring about Caleb, should go into the land, in that sense. So then why is it, that you insert yourself in this area? All right, and so that's some of the things we got to question ourselves, because if we read it very carefully, you talk about the guys that brought the bad report, and they ain't going into the land. You talking, you are not going to the land. We know that what you just hit that rock, just not too long ago, earlier that year. I should say earlier that year, you done hit the rock. So you was told that you ain't going. You and your brother Aaron. And we know Aaron died in the 5th month. We know that you talking right now in the 11th month, in the 40th year. So you're still on the scene. So how are you going to associate yourself with God was angry with me because of those particular guys, the spies? And to say Caleb could go into the land and Joshua taking your place. So there's a lot of questions, but I'd like to bring one thing out just to be a little brief, but I could explore a lot more, but just to save time. One of the things I'd just like to present is that, one, earlier when we was dealing with the Sidra, Shalak, I said some people call Shalak Lekah. All right. So now, if the Creator wants you to go there and told you to go there, the people came to you and say, we want to search it out. We want to search it out. The Creator already told you what's on the other side and told you what he's going to do for you. But the people, and you, Moses, you, the great Moses, said it seemed good to his eyesight, not in God's eyesight, in his eyesight, it seemed good. So, some people say Shalak, and some people say Shalak Lekah. And the Sidra is, sin for yourself. Why sin for yourself? Who for whose self? For Moses' self. Because it seemed good to Moses. So do Moses figure that he shared in some of that responsibility of that 40-year track and not bringing the rock into play when he's smitten the rock? Is he trying to say, I'm not going, not so much because of the rock. I'm not going because how did you convince me otherwise? Is he saying something like that? Further discussion for, various people to ask. There's a lot of commentaries on this particular area here. And then you insert Caleb then, in between that, Caleb should have been, when you were talking about the 12 that went, you should talk about Caleb and Joshua then. Why are you talking about Caleb on the other side of you not going into the land and Caleb going in and Joshua going in? When we know that those two would be going in from way back then, and you wasn't included in that, and that kind of criteria where it was been a penalty against you. So now, what's your purpose of doing that? So that's what a lot of discussions at. And I'm going to stop right there in reference to it. There's a lot of other stuff I'll probably touch on maybe later on in the week. Next time about the battles that went down. And we'll go in the book of Isaiah. But I'd like to, for y'all to discuss those areas there. And some of the things to consider is that why would we fight against Sihon and Og and not fight against Edom? So that's something to discuss and lay on the table. I'll probably try to talk about that on the way going with Econon next week. But because Edom got their army together. Sihon got their army together. There's one major difference. Edom said, look here, we posting up, while Sihon and Og, they stepped up. They met us in the field. So you can discuss those different things there. Because we didn't try to bust a grape with Edom, even though we was told we were going to get their land. It didn't say we couldn't fight people. All right, so it's a lot of things on the table there, to discuss. So we're going to book of Isaiah, and Isaiah is the third, like I said, of the Haftarah's admonishment. And what's unique about Isaiah himself has the longest book out of all the prophecy. Than all the other prophets. You got 60 some chapters of the book of Isaiah, but and the next one longest is Jeremiah. You got 52 chapters in Jeremiah, and then not counting the book of Lamentation that was written by a scribe, and then you got Ezekiel, 48 chapters. So now Isaiah, out of all the prophets that we're going to read about outside of Moses, he's like the second most dominating prophet compared to Moses. Moses being, the greatest of all the prophets, in Israel. But as a number 2 person, as far as in ranking, it had to be this guy here, Isaiah. And we're going to start off in just from the first chapter. Like I said, it's the first chapter of Isaiah, and it goes on to the 27th verse. Now, I want, just in case I'm going to rush through it kind of fast a little bit, but I want to bring out a couple of points I hopefully I don't miss, is that when we don't find much about Isaiah introduction about himself until basically the 6th chapter of Isaiah. Then we find out a little bit more about Isaiah. But in the beginning, we just find out information about what, who he's prophesying under, and then when we look at Isaiah, where Isaiah was actually, and not only traditionally, but if you look at Chronicles, he actually was like cousins to the king. So he's on royal family in the Chronicles. So these kings we're going to talk about, they're brothers, the first one we mentioned, the brother and Isaiah's father was brothers. I mean, the father, they was brothers. And so Isaiah's like cousins. So there's a reason why he could talk the way he talked around the capital of Judah. And Isaiah prophecy is basically about 150 years before the destruction of the temple. So Isaiah also, when we're going to read about it, actually lived during a time when the northern kingdoms actually take it in, because we're going to find out about the kings. So you can start off in the first chapter.
Hallelujah. We're in the book of
Hallelujah.
Isaiah, chapter 1, starting from verse 1. And it reads, the vision of Isaiah the son of Amoz, which he saw concerning Yehudah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, kings of Judah.
All right, there. First of all, we're talking about 4 kings: Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. We know in Hezekiah's time, the northern kingdom was taken away. He the one had the second Passover to try to say, "Yo, come on back and come back on for the second Passover." So we know right then and there that being a king in Israel, you didn't live long. Something happened because he lasted that long. You know, from the reign of the kings until the king of Hezekiah's time. So can you imagine what a king life was like? What's the longevity? How's your health? We read about this last guy, Hezekiah had a foot problem. And he pleaded for that. He had a foot problem. Most kings didn't reign that long. And they jump on the throne pretty young. So, and you figure as a king, you should be eating the best and have the best doctors. How is it that you die so young in that position? You know, Israel, I guess Israel could wear out some people, both sides. But the northern kingdom themselves, like I said, each prophesied against the northern kingdom, and it was taken in 130 something years before the southern kingdom went to Babylon under the Syrians Sennacherib. All right, but let's read a little bit further now. So we got a little bit about his time frame, and let's see the opening verse, second verse.
Verse 2. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for Jehovah has spoken. Children I have reared and brought up, and they have rebelled against me.
Hold on, before we go further, we got to focus on that part. We have just the opposite of Hazienu, the song that Moses had. All right, and the song in Deuteronomy that Moses said, it was just the opposite. So it's 2 ways to look at this verse. And Isaiah, verse 8. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth. Moses said, give ear, O heavens, and listen, O earth. So why the reversal? So one way you could look at it, Moses was more, he ascended up before the Creator, and seen God's glory, and it was up there for 40 days and 40 nights, 3 times in his lifetime, in the presence of God for different reasons. But Isaiah himself seemed more earthbound. So when you say give ear to somebody, say, give me an ear. That means you close by. That's the Hebrew expression saying you right near here. You near me. So Moses started off, give me ear, heaven, and listen on earth. So it means I'm not bound to earthly things. It's almost like people that goes to church and say, I'm in the world, but not part of the world. Some to that effect they say, whatever quote they say. But this is one of the things here to let you know that Moses was on a higher level because he's like, look, heaven, you need to give me your ear. That's personal, real close. And somebody further where you say, listen. And Isaiah just saying the opposite. Now, another thing too, what Moses used those heaven and earth for, he used them for witnesses. So now, and when I spoke on that particular portion a while back, is that we're part of both worlds. We got something from up high and something from down low. And one thing we learned is that there's nowhere in the heavens we could go that they can't find you. Nowhere in the earth we could go, the earth don't know you. And since we made it for both, they definitely know us through and through. And then Moses employed them to be witnesses, not for us, but against us. So now, if the heaven and earth is used as witnesses against us, then why would Isaiah, another way of looking at the order is that you cross-interrogate witnesses to make sure the story is straight. So now we know we get ready, and this chapter is brought up during the time of admonishment, the last admonishment. So Moses wanted the heavens and the earth to witness against us, and Isaiah opened a statement, and he says thing is like, "Oh, I need to get the ear of the earth and the heavens to listen, because I'm a cross-examine, switch it around now." And those that read the Apocrypha know about the cross-examination that happened in the case of Susanna, which is an interesting story. with Prophet Daniel. So you have a cross-examination being down there, because now I'm going to ask the earth first as a witness, accusation. Let me see what your story is. Then I got to see what the heavens say and see if the story collaborate with one another, so that we can have a sure case. But two or more, a matter is established. So now you have a cross-interrogation going on here from Isaiah's point of view. Okay, Moses calling the witness that thing. Now, there's 2 times you have witnesses in business dealings, in general business dealings. When you first make the deal, you got to have something to, show that, the deal's, solidified, and the contract. So you have witnesses to it. And then if you borrow some money, or whatever the case is, from an individual, you got witnesses say so-and-so borrowed thus and thus. All right. Then you're going to have witnesses say so-and-so paid it back. So that you have witnesses twice on both sides. One in the beginning of a transaction, and one at the end of a transaction. Here, Moses called the witnesses ahead of the transaction. Isaiah calling the witnesses and cross-examining them after the transaction, the contract is breached. So this is how we start off our story. You can pick it up now from the third verse.
Verse 3, it reads, "The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider."
Right there. Mm-hmm. Now, and we compare it to beasts. On the surface, it seemed like the ox is more intelligent than the donkey, the ass, right? It seems like it's more intelligent. But we know that donkeys are actually more intelligent than the ox is. We know that, but the thing is, and then you say, well, okay, if we know that, why are we making it more intelligent? The ox knowing his owner, because he definitely is corralled more, locked up more, and looking to be fed. An ass travels more. There's stubbornness, and in order to be stubborn, you got to know what you don't like, and you got to know what you like. So here we compare it to 2 beasts. 2 beasts of burdens. One kosher, and the other not kosher. Ain't that something? One clean beast and one unclean beast. And the clean beast, talking about the ox, knows his owner. And there's a lot of other comments on there, but I just want to focus on this one I'm sharing with you now. And ask where the trough at, where I'm gonna get fed at. I can do that on my own. So one, you might wait for the owner to appear. The other one, the ass, say, I know where to go. So since the donkey know where to go, he's like, but he says, but Israel does not know. My people does not even consider. So that means that right then and there, what we ignorant of and what we don't consider. You can pick it up from there.
It reads, "Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that deal corruptly. They have forsaken Yehovah. They have contemned the Holy One of Yisrael. They are turned away backward."
And that's something. That means that they turn away backwards, man, right then and there, and forsaken and the Creator, one that He did all this stuff for. So Isaiah looking for testimony, because talking to the people ain't helping. But yet he's talking to the people. But he look for witnesses that I'm doing my job, and I need you to see I'm doing my job. And you can bear witness that did they break the contract, or they still in the contract? Because some people be doing wrong and think they're doing right. Be strong and wrong. So now we get to the fifth verse.
Verse 5 reads, "On what part will ye yet be stricken, seeing ye stray away more and more? The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint."
Keep going.
Slika. "From the sole of the foot even unto the head there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and festering sores. They have not been pressed, neither bound up, neither mollified with oil. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burnt with fire. Your land, strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate as overthrown by floods.
Hold right there. Stop before we go any further. All right. Now, we getting beat up, head hurt up. Got all kind of bruises on your head, bruises on your body, oozing sores, you know, and it's not even no attention, no care is taken for your bruises, and you still going on persistent in what you're doing. That's what that is. So that says there's no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and festering sores. All right. That means it's not even going further. You're not even paying attention to what's going on with your own body, how you're hurting yourself, how you're killing yourself, how you're destroying yourself. And then it goes on, your country is desolate and your cities are burnt with fire. When you talk about that, you notice the analogy, first part, it talks about the head. All right. And then it gets into the heart, which is the body. So the countryside is actually the head of the country. And people don't pay attention and say, okay, it's almost like the government, the aristocracy. I say, government's broke, but they're always crying broke. They ain't never got enough money to run things. So that don't affect us too much. But let my check not make it in the mail. Let not my money reach my account. Now I'm feeling it there. So it's in. So that's the heart. See, the brain was to figure one thing. That's the head. You know, and when the brain, you have a headache, it pretty much stays in the head when you have a headache. But if you got, you know, a weak heart, or, you know, you got, you know, I mean, a strained muscle, pulled muscle, whatever the case is, and it affects the whole body now. Because that message is going through the whole body, the heart functioning the whole body. So the head itself, you say, I got a headache, I just got to work on my head. But if you got limbs and stuff going on, you know, that's the heart function. You know, that's the heart. The heart is one of the most unselfish organs in the body. If it supplies every organ, and no organ returns the favor and supplies the heart. So, and that's why it affects more of the body. So the cities is like the extremities of the body, you know, so dealing with the heart. And that's why those two analogies used about the head and the heart. All right. And it says from the sole of the foot even up to the head. So the heart deal with the pretty much every part of the body, and the head just deal with the head. You take a pill when you got a headache, hold your head, squeeze it, wrap it up. When the body's hurt, messed up, then you got some problems. But we're gonna go on to the next verse, eighth verse.
It reads, and the daughter of Zion is left as a booth in a vineyard, as a lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. Except Yehovah of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, we should have been like Gomorrah.
Hold right there before we go further. It was 5 cities that was destroyed. Talking about the women. Now, when you disgrace a nation, you actually disgrace the women, because they're the ones that raise the family up first. All right, that's the nucleus of the family in the beginning stages. You know, because you have children, and your children is first taught and nourished by the mother before it gets into the hands of the father, or become, more under the, even though the father's actually providing from day one, you know, making things work. It's just that the mother's more recognized as, you know, hands-on. So if the daughters of a nation is messed up, if the women in the nation is corrupt, if the women of the nation is left out there and, you know, for grabs, you know, then the nation is looked upon bad, you know. One of the things we used to say in BINAH when I was coming up is that every nation on the planet, you know, has some of our women, but we didn't have every woman on the planet from some of those nations. As far as a ratio, dealing with our numbers, dealing with the amount of people we have in this country, you know, we didn't more of our women is with everybody else than the men are with everybody else. That's something to consider, you know. So what kind of people we have. Then why related to Sodom and Gomorrah when there's 5 cities that were destroyed? You know, Adnah, Zeboim, and Zor. All right. So you had the 5 cities of the plains that was destroyed at one time. Why? You know, well, Sodom was like the capital. So God, you know, through the prophet is likening us to Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, and the capital was Sodom. Abraham, you know, was addressed by the king of Sodom. Lot wound up being, a judge in Sodom because he sat in the city gate. We know also that Amorah, you know what you refer to here as Gomorrah, but Amorah, those in the other cities were like, you know, subsidiaries, but but the Sodom was like the capital of those 5 cities. So everything that took place, it's just like Jerusalem being the capital of the nation for us. But you have all these other cities, you know, Beersheba, you know, Ashkelon, and all that kind of stuff in ancient times. You know, or it's like today. I use an analogy we can relate to more today. Tel Aviv being the capital of Israel. You know, but yeah, you got Jerusalem, you got Haifa, you got, you know, Nazareth, you got all these other little places there, but the capital's here, just like America. Albany is the capital. New York City is more what's happening. But Albany is the capital of New York, you know. So it is that Sodom was the capital, and we're likened to that, you know. And it's not finished yet. It says 10th verse.
Verse 10 reads, "Hear the word of Yahweh, ye rulers of Sodom. Give ear unto the law of our God, ye people of Gomorrah. To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me? Saith Yahweh, I am full of the burnt offerings of rams, and the fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of bullocks, or of lambs, or of he-goats."
Okay, right there.
Right.
We forgot to 12. All right. So now, the more support of what I just said, they call the rulers of Sodom, and they call the people of Gomorrah. Then, you know, you got capital and subsidiary cities. So Sodom was the capital, and we are likened to them. And you say, well, why would you be like? That's a real disgraceful thing, because the Creator had them destroyed completely because of their wickedness. And there was the talk of everybody that passed around. So everybody had a problem with that particular people. You know, they say, go to Sodom. They known to do all kind of stuff up there. You know, don't go in no 5 cities up there, because you ain't gonna get no justice. So, and that's where Lot was, and that's where the angels came. They came to Sodom, but they destroyed all that plains, all the cities of the plain. All right, and then here it is, the Creator saying, "To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifice to me?" And they say, "I'm full of it." All right. And then it goes on saying, "I delight not in the blood of the bullocks or the lambs or the goats." So now you can pick it up from there.
Verse 12 reads, "When ye come to appear before me, who have required this at your hand to trample my courts? Bring no more vain oblations. It is an offering of abomination unto me. New moon and Shabbat, the holding of convocations. I cannot endure iniquity along with the solemn assembly."
Hold right there. Say, look here. It didn't say that them days is no good. It's what you doing on them days that's no good. It said the sacrifice you bringing, you know, you're bringing them up there for no good, because you ain't making a change. You know, you think we could buy God with a little blood, little stuff like that, and we still continue to do what we do. So this is what it's saying about that. That we the Creator's upset with that because of our lack of repentance for the things we do. So when we deal with the day like Tisha B'Av and stuff like that, is one of the saddest days on our calendar. Yom Kippur is not a sad day; it's a solemn day. This is considered a sad day because we lost 2 temples around this time, you know, and the temple was entrusted for us to protect and you know, and have people approach, you know, the Creator through that. So now that when we look at the sacrifices, the new moons, what we're doing, if we desecrating it, then they're going to be destroyed. And that's what the Creator said. He's tired of that. He don't want that, because, and then what, right? And a lot of vegetarians will have a field day with this, or vegan people have a field days with this, because now, and animal activists as well. Because if the temple come back, are we still going to slaughter animals? Do we going to still have sacrifices? Oh, that's cruel and humane. And look at the neighborhood. Anybody been to a slaughterhouse? It ain't the most glamorous looking spot. Even if you go to a chicken slaughterhouse, it's not a glamorous spot. It's not a fragrant spot either. So people have a field day with this. But the Creator wasn't even talking about that per se. It's the type of spirit we had when we try to bring those sacrifices in. All right, continue. 14.
Verse 14 reads, your new moons and your appointed seasons my soul hateth. They are a burden unto me. I am weary to bear them. And when you spread forth your...
Now, a new moon was actually in ancient times. It was a day where you could work, but it was more celebratory. These days and times, they don't do as much, because in ancient times you had to have somebody watch the moon, call out the moon, just as in Rosh Kodesh, and then you declare the month, you have a feast, supper, in celebration. We read in the book of Samuel that they observed the new moon for 2 days with King Saul observed it 2 days. So it was a celebratory time. Not that you didn't, you didn't work, wasn't allowed to work, but it was a celebratory time itself, each Rosh Kodesh. The only new moon we was told not to do anything but serve our work on is Yom Teruah that comes up in the 7th month, shortly from now. So he said, the new moon's appointed season, my soul hated. Now, if the Creator say he hated, that means it's the way we do it. What we consider is ours and not his, because the way we treat it, it must belong to us and it can't belong to the Creator. Because if I loan you my tool, if you break up my tool, damage my equipment, then it must belong to you. It can't belong to me because you don't respect it as such. So it must be yours. So those are some of the things we're talking about. So we're going to pick it up in the 15th verse.
Verse 15 reads, and when ye spread forth your hands, I will hide mine eyes from you. Yea, when ye make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood.
Hey, that's something you can't even pray your way out. Keep going.
Wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before mine eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do well. Seek justice. Relieve the oppressed. Judge the fatherless. Plead for the widow. Come now and let us reason together, saith Yahuwah. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool.
All right, there. You notice the analogies. All right. When you talk about, your sin being as scarlet. All right. Scarlet is red, but why did it stream? And then it says and then it says crimson, red like crimson. Both of them is red. Scarlet is red, crimson is red. White is white, and snow is white. So why the redundancy here? And wool, most wool, depends on where you're at, be as wool, So that means that's normally white. We think of wool as being the white lamb and all that kind of stuff, not so much the black, lamb too tough. So what it is like it's saying your blood, when you commit a sin, it's almost like your blood boil. That's red in that sense. And we associate white with purity. Now, we ain't talking about racial this and everything like that, but we think about in the sense of purity, in the sense of white. We know in the Apocrypha it says snow is for purging. So when they have a snowfall is written in I think in Ecclesiasticus by Ben Sirach, that snow is comes for the purpose of purging. So when we look at that, say if you be willing and obedient, You shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured with the sword. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken. That means right there, he wants us to change. And creator, what creates, deity in any mythology, and I can't, or legend. I use mythology even more so, that says they plead with you to come back to them. No God in any ideology that I know of will plead to you, before I was things now, because everybody's, pretty much, tack on to Judaism, as it would say, for lack of word, our way of life as a lack of word, try to get characters to their, their belief system similar to ours. But no deity ever said, come and let us reason this thing out. Let's talk and come to a compromise. Let me try to figure this thing out together. And the creator don't have a loss for words. The creator don't have a loss in thought. And yet he said, come and let us reason together. The meeting of the minds. It's almost like you calling your child that messed up. He said, come here, let me talk to you. He said, we got to come to an understanding. He said, we got to come to an understanding. I'm putting down the law. I know you messed up. That's why I'm calling you, so that we could come to an understanding, because I need you to know. I already understand what's the problem, but you really don't see the consequences of your action right now. And that's why we need to come into agreement before, I exercise the next level of corporal punishment, on you. So this was the creator is pretty much say, come and let us reason together, because I'm trying to save you from yourself. But go ahead, pick it up from the 22nd. No, we go 21. Pick it up from 21.
Verse 21 reads, how is it the faithful city become a harlot? She that was full of justice, the righteousness lodged in her, but now murderers. Thy silver is become dross, thy wine mixed with water. Thy princes are rebellious, and companions of thieves. Everyone that loveth bribes and followeth after rewards. They judge not the fatherless, neither doth the cause of the widow come unto them.
Keep going.
Therefore saith Adonai Yehovah of hosts, the mighty one of Yisrael, I will ease me of mine adversaries and avenge me of mine enemies. And I will turn my hand upon thee, and purge away thy dross as with lye, and will take away all thine alloy. And I will restore thy judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with justice, and they that return of her with righteousness. Hallelujah.
All right, now we ended on a good note, but a lot of drama going to happen here. Because first of all, they talk about the sins of the people. We're talking about the people, they're talking about the leadership. The leadership is really corrupt. And it said they judge not the fathers, and not do the cause of the widow come before them. In other words, you have no protection. You can't even get an audience with the judge. You can't seek justice from the judges in there, And when we look at that, and to say, thus said the Lord of hosts, the mighty one of Israel, I will ease me of my adversaries. How do we become an adversary of the Creator? By not doing what He required us to do. And he talked about in the middle of the 25th verse, and purge away thy dross as with lye, and I would take away all thy alloys. All right. So right then and there, that the Creator promised to say, look here, I'm gonna straighten you out. I'm gonna help straighten you out, but straighten you out not because you made that great change. He wants you to be changed, and say you have the power to change. You have the power to become a better individual. But for His name's sake, the Creator is going to do a lot of stuff for us. And say, and I will store thy judges as at first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. We read earlier that judges and officers in a sidra, they're supposed to have. We know what a judge do. A judge interprets and pass down the law. Whereas the officers, the policemen, the shoterim, is the one that actually enforce it and make sure it's carried out. Here it talk about counselors in the future. That means right in there, Moses couldn't find people that's able to understand the law to the degree for every particular situation, be able to live outside the box. The counselors are also going to say, I'm going to give you insight on how to comply with the judgment that the court render you. So here it is talking about the ideal thing is that it's not so much people got to be policed and forced into doing what is right. The counselors say, I'm going to help you understand how to do right. And that's what leaders and teachers pretty much should be doing in various places these days. And most times they have a big job to do, to try to give people insight on what to do right. That's the counsel. And some people pick on a field that they're not qualified to be a counselor. And in the last verse, because like to end on a good note, no. But before we get to that, it says, afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, and the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with justice, and they shall return of her with righteousness. No, and they that return of her with righteousness. Now, Jerusalem was a righteous in the city where you could get justice when things were done on an all-time high. We know certain kings did things justly in the city. All those kings that Isaiah lived under, all of them wasn't bad. Some did a certain amount of reform. Hezekiah did a certain amount of reform, but then, he made a little slip and blunder here and there. So with that, this will be the last of the Haftarahs of admonishment. After that, next week, Shabbat Nakum, which is comfort, Shabbat of comfort. Then we know right then and there that you're going to start getting support how to make a change, because with the 7 weeks that we try to make the change, when it takes a while to prepare on the sixth month, which is the month of Elul, to be able to approach God for exoneration. So repentance is not an overnight thing. You may stop something at the moment, but that doesn't mean you stopped it perpetually. You just stopped at that moment. You took a pause for the cause, whatever cause that is. So as we move forward, I hope everybody, remember these days and consider these days and consider what we're going into in the future before we reach Yom Kippur, before we reach Yom Teruah, that we start doing a lot more soul searching, and that we try to be all that the Creator wants us to be instead of all that we desire to be. And with that, any mistakes by my own, I say Shalom Aleichem or Shabbat Shalom. And one more thing I forgot before. I seen on there, a brother mentioned about the commandments, because in this particular book of the Deuteronomy, we have 200 laws in this book, the whole book of Deuteronomy, the 5th chapter. And, out of the 200 that's mentioned in this particular book, you got 77 positive and 123 negatives. Now, normally out of all 5 books is, combined, it's 613 laws, statutes, and judgments. So you got 248 positive commandments and 365 negative commandments. And the reason I said that because I seen in the chat. So we have more laws that we are not supposed to do than things that we must do. And out of the 613, if we stretch it out and count it out, it might be only 60 or so that applies to us today. So it's even less that applies to us that we got to do. So it's more staying away from stuff than, promoting and doing stuff, and that the Creator asks of us. But what we do, we espouse more of doing stuff than staying away from stuff. So we just do the opposite of the balance that's given in our law, statute, and judgment. So once again, I could say any mistakes by my own. Questions, G?
Hallelujah, yes. A couple of things. Can you expound a little bit more on the Tesha B'Av for those people that might not understand it? and for those people who might be in the dark about it, can you know, in the Tanakh, where does it speak about it? Just give people a little understanding of it, because in the Israelite community, we don't really celebrate it within our segment of the community. But give them, the listening audience, a little more understanding, a brief understanding of it.
Okay. Well, I spoke on it again. It's in the book of Zechariah, I think around the 8th chapter or something, somewhere along there. And it speaks about the 4 fasts that was started during the Babylonian period. Now, you have the fast of the 4th month, fast of the 5th month, fast of the 7th month, and the fast of the 10th month. Now, when we say the fast of the 7th month, most people think of Yom Kippur, but that's not the fast there. And the fast of the 7th month is basically the fast of the assassination of the last governor that was left by Nebuchadnezzar over Judea, which was Gedaliah. He was assassinated there, and he technically, according to tradition, was actually assassinated on Rosh Chodesh, but they don't want to bring a memory on Rosh Chodesh on the Rosh Chodesh celebratory time, so they postponed it to the 3rd of the month of Ethanim. So they postponed that. Now the fast of the 10th month is when they laid siege to Jerusalem. They actually laid siege to Jerusalem in 10th month, and that's Nebuchadnezzar forces. And then in the 4th month, the 17th of the 4th month, that's Jeremiah, as I said before, places like in the 9th of the 4th month. So tradition says the 17th, the month when they refer to it as the month of Tammuz. During that particular time, they actually breached the wall, and it took 3 weeks of fighting before they actually got to the temple and actually destroyed it, which is Tisha B'Av. Now, we know the Romans did the same thing. Some people study history of a people in order to say, well, where was they were the weakest at, and coincidentally, it happened around the same time. Now, in some books, it would say the 10th of that the temple was destroyed. Traditionally, they say it was actually the 9th, but it continued and was completely destroyed until the 10th. And that's how they harmonized that. But when the Roman period, we're dealing with secular history, a little bit more common secular history, we know exactly it was actually the 9th of Abba. So it's not a celebratory time. It's a time of reflection, a time of consideration for those particular times. So Yom Kippur that we observe should be as more of a celebratory time, even though it's a somber and solemn time. It's not a sorrowful time of Yom Kippur. Only sorrow is that we felt bad for what we did, but in our personal lives, and we got a chance to atone and come into court asking for clemency, compassion, forgiveness. So that's the difference. So those the other days that they fast actually in the daytime. The only time they do the 24 hours plus is Tisha B'Av. And like I said, it's a man-made thing. And those that go into the book of Zechariah, the Creator said, when the question was asked about those particular fasts,
I got it right here. Let me just read it. And the Zechariah chapter 8, verse 18 reads, "And the word of Yehovah of hosts came unto me, saying, Thus saith Yehovah of hosts, the fast of the 4th month, the fast of the 5th, and the fast of the 7th, and the fast of the 10th, shall be to the house of Judah joy and gladness, cheerful seasons. Therefore love ye truth and peace." Thus saith Yehovah.
And the thing that, right. All right, so the Creator, but before that, the guy said, he asked the question because it said it was doing it for 70 years, Right. And so that means that they started something, so they started something. And so he asked the question. And then the Creator said, you think of it in one way, but but in the future, you'll be celebrating those particular days that you overcame, you got back, almost like, we finally arrived. So then you won't be thinking about the bad part of it. Now, some traditions, I don't know myself. I'm just saying, what I discovered. Some traditions say in comments, believe that in the latter days, though, all we're gonna have, we're still gonna keep Passover, we're still gonna keep all them days, the Shlosh Regalim there, but they're gonna be pale in comparison to those days of fast days that we observe now. And we only do 24 hours when it comes to Tisha B'Av. There's another fast day that was instituted by our forefathers during Mordecai and Esther, the fast of Esther, which is that's in the book of Esther. And that's a day fast, and that's one of the fasts that appears ahead of time. And they fast in commemoration simply because it didn't seem like no big super divine act took place in there, but they recognize the Creator still worked for us, almost like the Creator working for us in the area of Bilam, stand up on that mountain, offering up these 7 sacrifices, waiting to curse us and couldn't curse us, and Moses still around. So we have a lot to consider. So those days are days of reflection, days of sorrow that we talk about. Whereas when we get to Yom Kippur, and I got to emphasize that, because I see guys look as bad as they want to look. You can look humble, but people tend to look bad as they want to look. And I find it kind of strange, because I know most of us might not wear leather. I don't usually wear jewelry on that particular day on Yom Kippur, but I try not to wear leather or something like that if I can on Yom Kippur and stuff like that, because I don't want to bring attention to anything that causes a life, to be taken. So so that's why you might find guys that wear non-leather outfits and don't wear no gold, because the sin of the golden calf. And then when we calculate the sin of the golden calf and the time element, is 40 days after God spoke with us, and then 40 days after Moses came back. So when he came back after praying for us, then we know automatically he had to go up in the month of Elul for the last 40 days. So, and with the second set of tablets, he came down on Yom Kippur. So you'll calculate, roughly given or take, 120 days from the time of Shavuot, give or take a day or two, to Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur, pretty much being instituted then. And strangely enough, we never read where we ever observed it in the book, though. But we observe fasts because of calamity, but you never read, where we actually observe Yom Kippur in the book. So it's more of a patriotic concern that some of us do it. And it's not a mandatory fast. But even if you don't have to fast that day, and sometimes they have it, I think, if I'm quoting the source correctly, or quoting the comments I remember, is that if you read something from the Talmud, read something from the Tanakh, whatever the case is, then, especially to read the book of Lamentations during this particular day too, the Megillah of Lamentations. When you read that, you're free from the fast. You complied already, and then, some places they might do it about 12 midday, half a day. If you make it to a half a day, they consider it fast in some circles too. So those are some of the variables. And if you take medication, if you need medication, then even any fast, you need to, look out for your medication. Your affliction would be that I want to do it like everybody else. I want to go to the maximum, but it do no good if I die going up to the maximum, because the grave do not praise him. David said that. So that's why David most of the time talking about saving his life, because you can't praise him from the grave. All right, so those are things I know on reference to that. And like I say again, if I misquoted something, and then you can leave it in the comments.
So the fast of the of the 10th month is the beginning of the besiegement of Jerusalem. Am I correct?
Correct.
And then the fast of the 4th month is the breaching of the walls of Jerusalem. Am I correct?
Correct.
And the fast of the 5th month is the actual destruction of the temple.
Correct.
And the 7th month is not. And the 7th month is not Yom HaKippurim, but is the fast of Gedalia. Correct.
Yeah, and and it's celebrated by the 3rd. You know, 7 days before Yom Kippur. But Chief, also I showed before that the very book that y'all teach out of on the Bima has all that in the back of the book.
You know,
so I tell people, you could, check the sources out for themselves and stuff like that.
It's understood. That I just taught that lesson not too long ago when we went through Sakari, and I gave all of the same references that you gave. But I wanted,
that's good.
Yeah, I just wanted everybody else to understand.
Well, we know you're a prolific teacher and stuff like that. So we know you're gonna do your research. That's for sure. Before you get out there, you're gonna definitely do your research. So I'm sure you gave right information.
What happened is that through the years, sometimes in our community, I mean, I hate to put it this way, but it's like we villainize, how do you say it? We criticize and we villainize everything, and not even understanding that some of these things were in the actual Tanakh, and all we had to do was pick it up. And because a lack of understanding and a lack of studying, we just threw everything down and not understanding. It's one thing if you said, well, the Most High God didn't say that we have to do that. That's one thing. But to just say that, disregard it completely and it's in the Tanakh is really a misjudgment of understanding and really not having understanding, and I'm glad that through the years I've been able to, I would say, open up my mind to a little bit more understanding of the things that are happening, and try to listen to people more, because in listening, that's how you gain understanding. You won't be able to have an argument for something if you don't hear the actual debate or what the person is saying, in order for you to be able to answer. And then sometimes what you find out is that when most people have certain things that they do, there is an understanding behind it, and for a lot more parts than any, it's a valid understanding. And then you just have to understand that people do things for a reason, and not necessarily because they want to do what they want to do. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. The thing is that we talked about earlier in the Sidra.
Right.
Moses had 3 qualities to look for judges. Judges is not just a crime case. Judges is dealing with certain situations and how to be able to do certain things in the future. What's the right course of action to take? Not necessarily as a trespass going on in there, but how can I avoid certain things? If there's an issue here, where I'm doing the right thing in this area here. So that's where the understanding is, because you have the knowledge of certain things already given, and the wisdom you have, being able to, hear something and repeat it and regurgitate it pretty much. But the understanding is to say, can you take it outside the zone of what they just gave it to you in? And that's the understanding. So that's why in the beginning of Deuteronomy, it focused on that the 3 qualities that was asked, not only by Yithro, but was approved by the Creator. Moses only said fully, all I see is the 2 qualities. I mean, the 3rd quality, is not fully developed, which is the understanding going outside the box. They understand, yes, they have some understanding, but they don't have it to the level that I could say they have really understanding. That's how I don't understand the word, BINAH. So that's makes the difference. And so, and it takes everybody time. And then what I used to find over the years coming up growing up as a youth, is that very few brothers, they will argue the book. I mean, but very few brothers I met will ever say, who canonized the book? When was it canonized?
Right.
You know, who's the people that said these are the scriptures? Who's the people that said that this is going to be where the Haftarah start and end? And we already know we got two major sources of Haftarahs, you know, in some places where you got Sephardic custom, you got the Ashkenazi custom. You say, well, how did they split up? You know, and some of them be on the same page and some of them having different thing for the Sidra. So most brothers and sisters don't look to it like that and say, okay, you know, the verses and the chapters, we talk Sidros, but yet the verses and chapters is foreign, but we find it very convenient. So we maintain it, you know, and we don't say, oh, so-and-so came up with that. And also, and then the very prayer, like I said in the last situation I dealt with Balak and Bilam. Bilam's prayer is the beginning of every entering every synagogue. How good is that tinsel Jacob? And he meant to curse us. But since he blessed us, that's the reason we say that prayer on entering. You know, but I'm saying, but a lot of stuff was developed later. People can say, well, I'm getting further away from the tabernacle and temple. The temple is no longer there. I need something that give me some kind of semblance of like I'm going in the temple. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, just speak briefly. It's that people said, you know, how you doing? Well, I said, I'm not bad, you know, Baruch Hashem, I'm okay, you know, I'm okay. So they said, you can't complain, huh? I said, no, I didn't say I can't complain now. I didn't say I can't complain. It's just that I won't complain right now. So one of the things that, you know, people say, well, some people say, well, complaining ain't gonna help anyway. I said, I don't know about that because we got a lot of things to do. I said, first of all, people moan and groan when they got a pain. Now, is that solving the pain, fixing the ailment, or it helps them endure the ailment a little bit better when they're moaning and groaning? But I said, but one of the things I said, well, I guess you don't pray much, you know, because he said, what do you mean? We're here to pray now. I said, no, you must not pray much. You must be praising a lot. Because if you're praising, then you're not looking for anything. You're just offering thanks. But if you're praying, you know what I mean, then you got a little shopping list somewhere along the line. It might be short, it might be long this week, it might be short that week. But that means that you want something to be better in your life because anything less than perfect is something worth praying about.
So another thing, there was Rabbi Chief Benjamin did an excellent lesson yesterday. He actually covered the book of Nehemiah chapters 1 through 3, and in his dissertation he was speaking about he connected it the building of the temple to people putting forth their hands to do something. And he was saying just in terms of the youth, he was speaking in terms of the youth of today and comparing, like he was comparing it to like the age of Marcus Garvey or Dr. Martin Luther King and all these great people of today that actually went out and did work in their youth, and then he started bringing up the ages, and he was trying to inspire more the youth of today to try to get active in something, try to do their part in the nation. So I pose this question to you: when you became when you were elevated to the position of Nasik and at Ben-King, how old were you? How old were you when you were heading the karate class, the dojo of Ben-King? Can you explain like the ages that you guys started and the type of things that you did at those young ages, maybe as an inspiration to today's generation?
Well, I think Prince Alpha, blessed memory, just said, look, I'm the only young brother that's traveling around, in 69 and 17. So, got that on I'm more so on a maybe pity of I'm the one that actually went up through the classes and stuff like that. Right. But the classes that we had on Buffalo, it started in 1972. So I'm 20 then, And that's when we formulated the Three Mighty Princes in the martial arts. And I was gonna call it Sons of the Ancient Martial Arts, but Prince Yaakov, that's what Murray said, call it the Arts of Abraham, because it's the first guy in the book that had somebody he trained for war. You know, so that's how that name come about. But the thing was that I was serious about, I had other talents, you know, like I taught some Hebrew in the beginning, basic Hebrew. I dealt with the Genesis test. So I stayed active, and most of us try to stay active in the camp. That's one of the things that you got to find something to do. If it ain't no more, say, well, I got my class may not be as advanced as the next guy's class, but I got a class, and I'm here regular, making input. Well, I'm not qualified to be a teacher in any area, but I'm qualified to be a worker. So I'm gonna come here on my own and make sure things are set up and in place. And, you know, that I spend a couple hours doing that, make sure everything's in place, because that's all I could do at this particular time. If we have a lunch program, I'm a volunteer sometime out the period of time to come up for the lunch program. One of the worst things I find, especially with the pandemic lately, and I was just talking to the Chief Prince Ariel about that, is that when a lot of chief men don't come out at all and use the pandemic as a reason why they don't come out, and they get comfortable with the Zoom, stand back, you know, looking at the Zoom. And myself, unless a place is closed, unless I'm somewhere where it's not a place, that's one of my strong points. I never miss congregating anywhere at any time in my life. You know, and if I'm in a place where there's a congregation nearby, I'm going on Shabbat. And I think just that, not being extra pious, just that, coming to a holy calling, helped me immensely. And I was telling my children that's what helped me immensely, that area there. And so, it's no nobility without responsibility. So if other brothers could sacrifice some of their time from their family, because time is a sacrifice that everybody gives to a cause. So if other brothers sacrifice their time to come out, to share information, or if they're not even the teachers, just to support the ones that's sharing information, that is support there. So I'm not the teacher, brother, you're the teacher, but I'm here to support you and say, right, man, and cheer you on. That helps immensely. And one of the things I was sharing with a couple of people, this last, I think I got to bring up, so I don't be so loquacious, as I was sharing with this sister, and I said, about unity. Brothers talk about unity, and I was saying, I gave the analogy in one of my talks, and I was following up on it when I was talking to her, that said 5 should chase 100, and 100 should chase 10,000, when the number should be like 2,000. And I said, in the 133rd Psalm, I said, the numbers didn't fit. So she was joking around. She said, well, I'm going to fact check that and check it out. I said, the numbers don't fit. If 5 chase 100, then 100 should only chase 2,000, not 10,000. So I said, but in the 133rd Psalm, it says, how good, how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity, and then it talks about the precious ointment and everything like that. But I focus on this. I said, but God commanded the blessing on unity. He never commanded a blessing on Aaron in that sense. He never commanded the blessing on the duo, on Hermon, and the oil that ran down Aaron's beard, not even to the skirts of his garment. What he commanded the blessing there where unity was. So much so that when it gets to the Tower of Babel, these guys here said, let us build us a tower, reach the heaven, so at least while we be scattered from one another. That means that I don't even want to be separated from my brother. And the whole earth was on one speech, and they built a tower. And what was so strong about it and emphasizing about it is that though they built that tower and the whole earth was of one speech, and they didn't want to be separate from one another, is that the Creator didn't send an angel down like he did with destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. He came down and confounded the language and scattered them abroad. And I said, I said, and that show you the power of unity. And I said, to go one step further, to show you how well the Creator respected unity, even when they're trying to do something wrong, the power of unity, that he didn't even destroy the tower. He just left it like it is. So that's a testimony of the power of unity. And I said, I didn't read that anywhere. I said, this just the Reverend Dr. Crown Prince draw at the bottom.
So basically what you're saying that like the youth have to be inspired on their own to find their path and to do something for the nation. That's,
well,
you know,
the thing is that you got to let them know that you got to let them know that they have something that they can offer. You know, their presence alone on the team. Everybody don't be out there on the court, on the field, but everybody be on the team. That's supportive enough. I'm willing to try to do what I can to fill in and fit in, but I'm not qualified to do it like you do it. And so it's for the leaders there to try to let them, the youth, see, you know, that they have capability. A leader's got to have faith in the people that they lead and say, okay, you have this capability over here. I know you might not figure you have it that great yet. Moses wasn't a speaker, but yet he speaks for almost over a month, you know, over a month on the book of Deuteronomy, and then he died. So we got to motivate the children to take a role and not being afraid to step to the side. You know, and I always use this here phrase: I'd rather be a guide by the side than a sage on the stage. Some people want to be a sage on the stage. Some of them's good. But I'd rather be a guide to the side, you know, because everybody can't be up there at one time.
One second. Torah about Nasik for your wisdom and your understanding. I think it's very important for us to understand our roles as young people. And what we have to do. All I was, you know, I'll let y'all in on a little secret. I didn't know anything about administration and how to be a secretary or anything of that sort. When we began to build in Congregation CHOKMAH Yisrael over 20 years ago, Nasik said, you're going to be the secretary. This is what you do. You take notes. These are all your duties. He showed me a few times. He corrected me in the things that I wasn't doing correct. Until this point, I'm still a secretary. Besides just being what they call me, a scribe and recording everything, I was a secretary, which is, I guess, the same faculty as a scribe. But you know, he set me on the way. And then I was able to do my job, and I continue to do my job to this day. Now we need the youth in the community for you to do all your job, the jobs that you're supposed to do in order to carry it on. Ask of your congregation, what is it that you could do? What is it that you could put your hands forth to? Begin to make meetings. We were making meetings as teenagers. We weren't allowed to miss meetings, especially if we were teenagers of some type of responsibility. We were made to sit in the meetings in order for us to be able to carry the baton when it was our time to carry the baton. You know, so now it's time for all the youth in the community to become activated. I'm not just speaking about D.C.B. I'm speaking about throughout the whole community. You have to just stop thinking about just yourself, and you have to think about the future of this nation and where it's going to go. That is the most important thing, is to find out what is it that you could do for your community and become activated and become involved in the things that are in your power to do. And believe me, the more and more that you do and the more and more that you apply yourself, you're going to be entrusted with more of the things that need to be done, because there's going to be someone that's going to notice that this person right here is growing in this part, is growing, and next thing you know, it'll be passed on to you. You know, don't sit on the sidelines complaining about what is not being done when your hands are not. We could never complain back in the days about what wasn't being done, and with elders around, and they would have never went for that. They would have checked us right at the door because we can't see what's going on in the background and all of the intricate things that are happening that just are not as easy as 1, 2, 3 to solve. So one more
thing I'd like to throw forward before you go, Chief.
Okay.
Also, if places is not, equipped to say to have certain things done there, and say outsource members from your community. They say, well, if one guy do a charity event, working with some other charity, or food or something, whatever the case is, it ain't got to be food coming from the organization itself, but you happen to working in a soup kitchen. You serving whatever that's what they eat, whatever they eat. It ain't whether it's kosher or not, you serving what they eat. But you ain't bringing the food, you help giving the hands on. You help delivering and pass it out. And that gives credit to the camp, because they can say, well, we got brothers from this place, sisters from that place, they volunteer once a month or whatever the case is, a couple hours to work on a program. And believe me, people now, you're not only being selfish, but you're outsourcing, and that's what Israel do. Israel's not just working on within, but we're supposed to develop within and spread abroad. That was our whole purpose.
Hallelujah. And that also brings unity. That's an excellent point to end on. Youth, find your way, find your avenue, and once you find it, set off and do what you have to do in it. Thank you, the Most High God, once again for the life of Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. And I thank the Most High God for all of you, the listening audience, for tuning in. I know my background fell down, my green screen fell down. And so I just had to go with the bare. You don't see the bookshelf. You see the bookshelf at the beginning, but now the bookshelf is missing. You just see a bare wall. So
look at it. It matches my background now.
Hallelujah. I told all about Nasik, and may the Most High God bless you.
And all of us. Shalom.
Shalom.